Recently I took to the Skyrim Xbox mod subreddit and asked people what videos they'd like to see. This is going to be the first of those. Today I'm looking at display enhancements and showing you a few setups that I personally use for different playthroughs and styles, 3 to be precise. I will leave the instructions on how to do each of these in the description below, as well as links to any mods that I talk about. I actually have a few extra tips to get even more out of this mod, which I'm going to save for the end. As you've probably noticed, I have all 30 presets going along the screen right now, but feel free to skip to 2 minutes in for the personal setups that I use and a few extra suggestions. But you never know, you might see a preset that I've overlooked. Also, please comment with your own setups if you have them, because I know myself I'd like to see them and many other people would too. For those of you that don't know, Display Enhancements allows you to essentially create your own in-game filters, almost like an ENB but far less straining on the system. Think of it as colour grading on the fly. Smaller imagescape changes are also available on weather mods like Vivid and Cathedral. These offer some excellent settings, but overall much less in depth and less changeable than Display Enhancements is. As you're watching these, look out for different filters like blues, greens, oranges and browns. Find the lightness levels and vibrancy, softness and blurs that you like. And if you'd like, I'd also be willing to put a simply slowed down version of this up separately for you all to look through, because trust me, it's much easier than going and sorting through them all yourself. I'm going to start with my favourite settings, which I will refer to as crisp. To get the look that you're seeing on screen right now, you just have to mix presets 3, 4 and 25. This preset brings the colours out in such a nice way, and I'm a really big fan of this one right now. It looks good in the dark, snowy areas, indoors and in all weather conditions. I highly recommend this as a starting point for anyone, and if you've never used it before, just try this out and see what you think. At the very least, it's going to give you a few ideas of where you can go with your own presets. But if that's not your thing, you could try a really fantasy setup by using 9, 13, 16 and 17, which is currently on screen. 13 is the most colourful preset and blends really well with others, especially ones that dull it out like 16 and 17 do. And 9 adds in a really blue filter over the top, which sort of cools it all off a little bit. I actually highly recommend using 13 as a starting block for any fantasy style that you're trying to make, so if you go away and want to make your own one, using 13 is going to be the best place to start if you want it to be vibrant and very colourful. But it definitely needs a certain level of reining in. Another option if you're looking for a more sinister environment is to use 3, 9 and 10 as the starting point. These dull the colours out and look particularly good in fog, blizzards and storms like the one you're currently seeing. Alongside this, I've also lowered my brightness, saturation and SkySkale whilst raising contrast, and I'm really happy with that effect. This one can leave the insides feeling darker too, as it adds to the shadows in a subtle but very appreciable way. With all of these, it's a simple case of trying out little edits for yourself. Everyone has different tastes and this allows you to hit those for yourself. However, I promised extra tips and that's exactly what I'm going to give you. I highly recommend using Rustic Weather's presets alongside this. It does not require Rustic Weather's, as it states that it doesn't in the mod and does in the mod. It's very confusing, but it absolutely doesn't. This can help you get to your goal faster. I love using this as an addition to display enhancements, as it does those finishing touches really, really nicely and helps you hit the fantasy or bleak vibe that you're going for. Another thing I'd like to say is presets 11, 28, 29 and 30 are blurs. 11 blurs too much for my liking, but 28 is brilliant. It actually blurs the LOD, so the distance, really well, and it goes really well with all of my suggestions. 29 is a subtle mid and foreground softening blur, whilst 30 is a much stronger version of the foreground blur. I find 28 to be the most worthwhile as it hides those uglier LODs, but that's just a preference thing. This is going to do it for me. If this has helped, I'd really appreciate likes and subscriptions, and please leave comments with any video suggestions, extra help that you need or extra help that you can give. But other than that, I will see you in the next one.
be so much